So I woke up in this light. I see these divine beings all the way around me. I'm in a circle and I'm surrounded by all these divine beings. And I was having a thought of where am I? And even before I could get the W of the where of that thought out, it was you're home and you're loved. And I knew it instantly. And I knew we were all connected. I knew we were all one. And I knew we were loved. It was just pure love.
Hello, passionate listeners and watchers. Welcome to Passion Harvest. Thank you so much for joining me today, wherever you are in the world right now. I'm Louisa, your host, and our guest today. I'm so excited about finally having her on the show, Heidi Craig. Heidi Craig's heart stopped while she was in the OR, and she woke up in heaven, or what she likes to call as home. Heidi had her near-death experience, NDE, after having her youngest son, and Heidi received 3 messages during her NDE over and over again. Heidi is the author of Messages from Heaven. This is her story, and this is her passion. Heidi Craig, welcome to Passion Harvest. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Really appreciate being here, and thank you for your platform and for inviting me to share my story.
Oh, I've been so excited about this interview. It's been a while, so I'm really looking forward to it. You had an incredible near-death experience. I've spoken a little bit about it briefly in the introduction, but this is your platform today, so I'd love you, if you feel comfortable, to share your profound experiences with the audience.
Sure. Well, I'll start with what happened. It was actually back in 2004. I had just given birth to my youngest son, my third son, and I had what was called retained placenta. And so I was hemorrhaging, and the doctor made the decision to take me into the OR, put me under anesthesia, and remove the placenta. And so when I was in the OR and they're putting the oxygen mask on me, my thought was, I have to stay awake. I can't go to sleep. I had that thought. I kind of knew that something was going to happen. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, you have to stay awake, stay awake. And of course you can't stay awake. I was out. But during that time, for 4.5 minutes, my heart stopped on the operating table when I was in the OR. And when I went back and I pulled the medical records, they cited that it was due to complications to heart disease. So I have what's called mitral valve prolapse, it's MVP. And that's just when your left valve of your atrium opens back up like a parachute, which can cause leakage, which can cause blood to go back into the left atrium. And so that's what they cited, the reason why my heart stopped. But so I fell asleep. And I was fighting it, but I was instantly out. And when I woke up, I was encompassed in this beautiful golden yellow white light. We don't have the vocabulary here in this life, in this reality, to explain the colors, to really do it justice, to articulate it. The experience, I'm going to do the best that I can, but we don't have a word for the color that I was bathed in. The best I can explain it as is this golden yellow white light. And when I woke up in it, the feeling that I had was one of just love, just pure unconditional love, peace, and contentment. And at that moment when you've gone through something and you can finally breathe and exhale, just that peace and contentment is what I felt. And it was just a knowing. And I want to explain and try to articulate that time there doesn't exist as it does here, right? That linear time, that man-made time doesn't exist. So everything that was happening to me happened at the same time, but separately. And that's really hard to wrap your mind around. So I am going to try to put it in a chronological order so that, it's understandable, but it was all happening at the same time, even though it was separate. So I woke up and I had this feeling of peace and love and safety and this warmth, like to my core being, that I'd never felt before. Even I remember like the safest I'd ever felt when I was a child at my grandparents' house, and it was snowing outside and I would get to sleep over, and just that peace and that love and that warmth I felt there, and that safety, that warmth. It was like that magnetized that by a million times is what I was in. And it wasn't just a feeling, it was through my entire essence, my entire being. It was a wave of energy. It was a living, palpable wave of energy, this light that I was bathed in. And also everything was communicated by thought. It was an instant knowing. There were no words that were spoken. So I wake up in this light, and it was just the most heavenly feeling I've ever experienced. And I had a thought, but again, the first syllable of that thought, it was answered. It was just an instant knowing, and I knew exactly where I was at. So I wake up in this light. I see these divine beings all the way around me. I'm in a circle, and I'm surrounded by all these divine beings. And I was having a thought of where am I? And even before I could get the W of the where of that thought out, it was you're home and you're loved. And I knew it instantly. And I knew we were all connected. I knew we were all one. And I knew we were love. It was just pure love. And so when I first recognized the beings, they had it like a ghost shape, like a ghost outline is what I saw. But that was just to kind of acclimate me to my surroundings and where I was at until I had that instant knowing. And then I recognized them through their vibration, through their energy. And we all had a vibration, but they were all an energy and a vibration, but all at different levels. So mine wasn't as fast as the divine beings were vibrating. There was faster. And then we all had a different rate of vibration and a different color. And then together, those vibration, those colors merged together, and it made up that beautiful golden light, yellow light that we were in. And I knew that light is where we're from. That's what we were made from. That was the divine, that's God, that's love. We're just love, unconditional, pure love. And I knew that our purpose in this lifetime, in this dimension, because I was shown that we live multiple dimensions in multiple lifetimes at the same time. Mm-hmm. But I knew that the purpose for this one, well, all of them, but specifically this one, because I just had come from this one, was to come down here and learn and to love. I mean, we're really here to love and grow in love. But to do that, there are lessons that our soul wants to learn, that we want to experience so that we can expand. So we have that expansion. So we do raise our vibrations. So while I was there and I'm surrounded by all these beautiful divine beings and I'm getting all this information, I had these 3 messages that were continually going through my being, through my vibration. And again, everything is, in my experience and what I experienced, it's vibration, it's energy. And so these messages were actually palpable, viable, live beings, even though they were messages that I was receiving. And it was that, we are unconditionally loved. Everything's always as it's supposed to be, and everything will be okay. It'll always be all right. And those messages were going through me over and over and over again. So I knew that those were important, and that I needed to carry those with me. No matter what happened, I had to carry those with me, and those had to be my truth. So, and I just kept getting this over and over again. I was shown everything. I can't break it down, but I was shown everything. So I knew that, my action towards someone, it affected that person, which then in turn affected how they reacted with another living being or soul or plant. I could see that ripple effect, that butterfly effect, some people call it, how we all affect each other. And I understood why things happened the way that they had up until this point. And I just knew, I understood, and I knew, again, that instant knowing that we were all connected and we all do affect each other. We really are all one, which is really hard in this lifetime because we're so focused on, what's mine and what's best for me and what benefits me and, our 3D life and living and surviving day to day. But in that moment, in that time, I knew, it's going to be okay. And we are all connected. Now I can see, because I did that it affected that person that way, and it affected that plant that way, and that, insect that way. We're all connected. And so that was beautiful. I was shown that when we do go home, you do have a life review, but it's not like for me, I was shown that it's not like in pictures. It's not like where you're just sitting there watching it. You're actually you're experiencing it. So, and it's not, there's nobody there judging you. God's not there, or a higher source or a divine being. I call the higher source, the higher power, God. But that was just, I was raised Catholic. I was or Lutheran. I was baptized Catholic, but I was raised Lutheran. Mm-hmm. So when I had gone home, my first recognition was of Jesus and Mother Mary, and of God. But I was shown that if I was a Buddhist, Buddha would have come forward for me. It was again, and shown that religion is correct. All religion is correct. It's just been interpreted incorrectly by man, and that's due to biases, perception, greed, hate, power. It's just been interpreted from that person's perspective, from what they're here to learn. So I get asked that question a lot. I do not believe in organized religion anymore, and that's just again because of my experience, based on what I experienced at that time, and it's just come back with me now. But I was shown we have this life review, and there's nobody judging you. God's not sitting there. Ascended masters are not sitting there. Jesus, Buddha, no one's sitting there judging your life. You're not even judging your life. You're there and you're experiencing your life again, but you're experiencing it from other people's point of view, what you put them through. You're feeling what you made them feel by your actions. And that's where your healing comes in. Because you're going back to your true divine self, and we are truly love. And all we want to do is love and grow and expand. That hurts. When you hurt somebody, it hurts. And so I was shown that, and that's where our healing comes in, and that we have to heal from. And it takes some people longer to heal because, some of their acts that they committed may have been, more traumatic than others. But I was shown that. So I was shown a life review, but it's not how I imagined that it would have been before I had my experience. I wasn't shown anything in the future. And in fact, to this day, I have a really great connection with my guides, and, I'll talk with them daily, and I try, and I cannot get any information for myself. It's like, when am I going to meet my next partner? Am I going to get this promotion? There's just some things that, we just are not supposed to have the answer to. We just need to live in the moment, experience it, make our choices, and live our life. But if we're looking at and we're living at it from a perspective of love, then you can't go wrong. You're always going to make the right decision, even if it is a mistake for you. So it was such a profound experience, and I didn't get the option to stay. I wasn't asked, hey, do you want to stay? Do you want to go back? I wasn't given the option. And I woke up to the doctor yelling at me, like in this very stern voice, to wake up. And I just remember I was angry. I did not want to wake up. How dare he bring me back to this? I was cold. I was heavy. I was sore. I was in pain. And I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be home. This felt foreign, and I was angry. And how dare he pull me back and bring me back here? And so I wasn't given the option. And later on, when I asked my guides, like, well, I've heard that people get the option to stay. And they're like, well, you would have argued with us. There was no point, because you have more things that you have to do and you have to learn. And I know, it was for my children, it was for my sons. And also my lessons for myself that I'm here in this lifetime to learn are self-love, self-worthiness, forgiveness. I have quite a few that, and I work on every day, and I struggle with every day. But I have a lot more learning in this lifetime, in this reality to do. And that's why I'm back. I do get asked also, if it was so great and if it's so real, have I ever thought about committing suicide to go back? And that's an absolute no, absolutely not. I know that if I would in my life prematurely before an exit point, that when I went home, I would make the decision to come back and relive it to learn those lessons that I didn't learn in this lifetime. And I don't know about you, but I want to learn my lessons in this lifetime and move on.
Yeah.
And move to a different lesson. So no, not for me. Committing suicide to go back home is not in my thought process. It's not an option. But I do get asked that, so I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So it was really a profound experience. There was a lot of information that I received. There is a lot to it. The more I talk about it and the more I write about it, the more downloads that I get from it and the more that I remember every time. I did write a little book, a little affirmation book where I took the messages that I received just to put them out there, because my life up to the near-death experience, I had some traumatic childhood experiences. And then I had my near-death experience, and then I had some traumatic experiences after my near-death experience with loss, like losing family members and losing pets that I loved. And I know that having those messages that I received really gave me hope, and turning those into affirmations daily really helped me daily to ground myself and to remember that this is temporary and I am here out of love and I am here to love. So if I'm making choices based on that, I'm going to be okay. It's always going to be okay. And I'll get through it. No matter what, I'll always get through it. Even at my lowest, when I thought things could never get worse, it always got better and I always got through it. So by sharing those messages, I hope that it gives hope. I hope that it resonates and people do carry hope away from that and find some good out of those messages. So that's just a little bit about my experience. Questions for me, Louisa?
That was great. I do. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I've got so many questions. First of all, do you mind just repeating those 3 very important messages that you received over and over again?
Sure. So we are unconditionally loved. Everything's always as it's supposed to be, and everything will always be okay. It will always be all right. I know they're really simple messages, and you're like, yeah, that's common sense. But I feel like, we have our lives and it gets staticky and we get so immersed in our own issues and our own problems that we lose sight, even though those are so simple. So to me, they're simple, but very powerful.
They're very powerful. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking, do I go in chronological order or not? But I've got something at the end. A lot of near-death experiences say when they've returned to this realm, this dimension in the physical body, it just doesn't seem like reality. They're heavy, they're sluggish. And you also mentioned that as well, that there's a certain light. Well, obviously you don't have a physical body, but it's very common to experience that sensation. Do you still feel like that sometimes that it's sluggish, heavy dimension?
Yes. Yeah, I do. And I'm sorry, I don't think I even explained that, but I did not have a body. So I was me, but I did not have a body. I was the vibration, the essence, our soul.
The consciousness.
Yeah, the consciousness. Exactly. What a beautiful way to put it. And so, yes, here I do. I feel heavy. I feel sluggish. When I am going through an experience that's not great, that's challenging, I really feel it more. You feel it in aches and pains, and you just feel that heaviness and that burden, that weight. So, yes.
Thanks, Heidi. Did you know that you had died or transitioned when you went into this incredible realm? Did you know that Heidi had died, or your physical body?
Yes. So Heidi didn't die.
No, sorry.
I was still there. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful question, and thank you for asking. But yes, my physical body that I wear in this lifetime was no longer. I was shed of that. I was light, and I was actually back to my true being, my true divine being. So I had there was no feeling of loss over it or sadness over it. It was actually a feeling of happiness and joy and love and peace that I was home and back to my my true essence, my true core, my true being.
And I loved that you were talking about that everything's vibration. And I just got this visual image of, I mean, I certainly don't go to rock concerts anymore, but you know, that the speakers, you can feel in your whole essence, in your whole body, that vibration. That was kind of the visual image that I received. Or when you're listening, it doesn't have to be loud sound, but you know, when sound affects your whole body. So that was just such a great way of describing it. Even when you were receiving or what we call words communication, the sounds we make with our mouth, it was coming through as vibration. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And you should go to rock concert. You should still go, Louisa. Don't stop. Do what you love. Go to.
I don't know if I love it, but so interesting. You mentioned I'm of the same belief. Everything's happening now. Everything's happening consecutively. You spoke about all your experiences, not only all your experiences during your near-death experience, but all your lives in this dimension and other dimensions are happening right now. This is one of my favorite subjects, but we won't digress too much. Do you mind just explaining that a little bit more to the audience?
Yeah, so we have there are multiple dimensions, multiple realities, multiple lives. So I don't like to say past lives, I like to say other lives, because simultaneously right now I could have 50 other lives going on and 50 other dimensions and realities. Right, I could be a different life form on a different planet in a different solar system or galaxy at this very moment, and I'm living that life. I'm just conscious right now in this 3D body in this lifetime of this particular experience that I'm going through. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, it did. It's just I get it. It's a very hard concept. You're now identifying as Heidi Craig, but I'm just trying to think about how to explain it. Some people say there's an oversoul, and you have fragments of that soul in multiple dimensions and multiple realities. Do you see it like that as well?
Yeah. So we have our soul, and our soul can go out to different dimensions, different realities, different lives. And pieces of it, right? We're going to take what we need to learn from that piece to put back for our expansion and our growth. It's not to say that there's not another me identical living another life right now in a different reality, because I know that there is.
Yeah.
So, but then there could be a male me out there who has the name of Abraham, living a different life, or Ichabod on a different planet, and I'm a different life form. But it's still me. It's my soul inhabiting that body at the same time that my soul is inhabiting this body in this lifetime. It is really a difficult concept, and it is hard to articulate because for me, and I don't have the background or an education of a scientist or a neurosurgeon or I'm a credit analyst, that got my degree from an online university. I don't have any higher education or learning from that. So I just have my perspective, my vocabulary to explain this through. And I don't always have the words to articulate what I'm trying to say based on the amazing, incredible experience that I had.
Heidi, you're doing a great job.
Oh,
thank you.
I really appreciate that.
I'm just in very simple terms, in this dimension, this reality that I identify as Louisa, just to explain it to the audience, how I can explain it as, for example, bilocating. I'm Louisa, but I can imagine myself walking through my grandmother's house. I'm actually there, but I'm also here as well. That's it in very, very simple terms. So yes, I can imagine walking through the rooms and opening the cupboards, and I'm consciously doing that at the same time.
Exactly. Last night I was flying. I'm at home in my bed, but I'm out of my body. I can see myself, but I was flying. And I was flying, across the world in a different continent. It was amazing. So, but I was conscious that I was at home in bed.
Would you consider that astro traveling or astral projection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a name, out of body experience.
Exactly.
And gosh, we're going off tangent here, but has this been more prevalent or started since your near-death experience?
I feel like I always had a connection, a strong connection with my guides. I always knew that there was a higher a source, a higher presence, which again, with my religious background, was God to me. I always knew that. Even when I started separating myself from the church because I didn't believe what was being taught. I just saw too many discrepancies and the hypocrisy. So I started to remove myself even before my experience from the church. But I always knew that there was, I was looked after. There, there were beings that were watching over me, looking after me. That there was a source, a higher consciousness. I knew that. So I always felt protected. I always felt loved. I always knew that there was someone there, even though I couldn't tangibly tell you what it was. And with life, and again, in this life particularly, because, we're so off of the reason why we're here. It's so fragmented and there's so much just bad right now in this life, in this world. It gets staticky. And you can lose that connection really easily, just trying to survive and live day to day at a lower vibration, at a lower level. And so up until my near-death experience, and I had gone through, and we all go through traumatic experiences. I had a dysfunctional childhood growing up. I did not really have that connection as deeply as I had it once I had after my near-death experience. So after my near-death experience, I was really connected in to my guides, and I could talk to them daily. And I was actually even, when my mom had passed away, I had a really close connection to her, and I was talking to her every day. But then again, life goes on, right? And it's taken me a lot of time and many, many years to integrate in my experience, and I still do it daily, and I'm still learning from it daily. But life will get staticky and life will get in the way, and the connection's not as strong, but it's always there. And I can always get back into it when I ground myself, when I clear myself, when I meditate. It's like anything, it takes practice, right? If you haven't ridden a bike in a while, you have to get back on and practice to get back to that level you were, where you don't have to use your hands when you're riding it, right? It's the same thing with our ability to connect to our original selves, our original beings, and we all have the ability to do that. But yes, to answer your question, that was a long way to get through it. My connection, I do feel, is stronger now, though it still does. To this day, it'll get staticky and I'll lose that connection a bit just because of life. And then I'll have to practice myself and work myself back up there to have that connection where I really want it to be.
Yeah, you did mention we get so engrossed in our own little world, in our humanness, in our life, and it's really not like that, but it's, it's unavoidable. You speak about raising your vibration, and I think you probably answered my question. How do you do that? You mentioned meditation, writing. Is there another way for the audience to connect with guides and raise their vibration?
Oh yeah, there's so many ways. Meditating is not for everybody. Journaling is not for everybody. You can raise your vibration simply by doing what you love. Simply by living your true authentic self, not making yourself small for anyone. We're not, I hate the term weird, because nobody's weird. We are all different, and we all have different perspectives. And so just because my perspective is different than yours, and I like something that you don't like, or you like something that I don't like, doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make me weird. We're just different. We have so much to learn from each other. So it's anything that you do that you love raises your vibration. So, if you love riding horses, you go out there on the weekends and you ride that horse. If you like to work out, because that's raising your vibration, right? You're no longer focused on all those things that are coming into your world, like, oh, how am I going to get that done? And how am I going to make money to pay for that? And you're not thinking about that, you're just engrossed in that moment of doing what you love, and that raises your vibration. If you love taking naps, take a nap. That's going to raise your vibration. You love watching movies, watch a movie. It's going to raise your vibration. Anything that you love doing is going to raise your vibration. Also, watching your thoughts, how you speak to yourself. I know that I can get very critical on myself, and I know a lot of perfectionists, where you can beat yourself up. Growing up, that narrative, trying to change those patterns, because you know what? We are enough. We are worthy. We are beautiful. And who's to say that your standard of beauty is any better than mine? I'm not going to let somebody dictate how I feel about myself, because I know I'm a beautiful person. So you have to change that narrative. So when you're like, oh, I could lose 5 pounds, or, oh, I just hate my thighs, you need to change that around. Like, you know what? These thighs, I've given birth to 3 incredible children, and they're incredible beings. I'm really thankful for them. So just changing that narrative, that's going to change your vibration and living your authentic self. If you like to dress in 1940 attire, do it. Don't be afraid not to do it because you're afraid of what your mother's going to think, or what your neighbor will think, or what your boss is going to think. If that's how you like to dress that way. It doesn't hurt anybody, and it makes you feel good. That's going to raise your vibration.
It's all about passion.
Passion
I love it. I love it.
And love, right? We are all going to go into experiences every day where it might be challenging, where somebody may challenge us or trigger us and make us upset or make us angry. But it's like taking a step back and looking at it from a different perspective of maybe putting yourself into their shoes, or trying to understand where they're coming from before we react. And even if we're upset, we can still come from it from a perspective of love. And if we're doing that, and it's coming from love, they're going to feel that. We may not agree, but at least we know we're not out to one up each other or get to each other, that we're truly there in this experience trying to understand each other. And we can agree to disagree.
I think you just answered my question about suffering, and basically it's always act from a place of love, and it is an experience. And if you can continue to act with love, make choices based on love, it gets easier.
Yes. I do. I get asked that question, why do bad things happen to good people? I get asked that a lot. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I can't answer that question. We're all here for our own experiences. And I'm not going to invalidate anybody's experiences that have happened in their life, because when something bad happens, it truly happens to you. It's not made up. You didn't make it up. You're not overreacting. It happened. I'm not going to invalidate that. So it's hard for me to answer that question, but I think you answered it. Like you said, if we are looking at things from a perspective of love, we can't go wrong, basically.
Yes. And what's your advice for people who are probably similar, but experiencing grief or have lost a loved one?
That's tough too. Grief and grieving take time, and everybody's grief and grieving is going to look different. I don't feel like anybody should be ashamed or embarrassed by it. It can take somebody a year, it can take somebody 10 years to fully be able to think of that person without getting teary and upset. That person is always going to be a part of you. That animal, our angel babies that are not in human form. That loss can be just as profound, if not more, than losing a human person that was close to you. Grief and loss are personal experiences. I feel like for me, losing family members, losing pets, I have a different perspective because of the experience that I had. So somebody may look at me, if I'm not grieving as they think that I should be grieving, and look at me like maybe I don't care, but I do. But I have a different perspective on it. For me, I feel like it's just honoring our loved ones. We can't forget them. So I don't want to stop talking about my mom. I don't want to stop talking about Lily, my puppy that died. I want to remember the good things and honor that memory. And it's okay. I want somebody to ask me about them, right? I want them to ask me about a great memory that I had, to honor them, because those are the times that I want to remember. Not when she was on her in her transition period and on that hospital bed and viewing her that way. I know that's probably not the answer people want,
but it's your truth. So,
but it's my truth. Exactly.
Gosh, I've got so many questions, but maybe one important final one. No doubt you get asked this a lot. What would you say to people that are afraid of dying?
So based on my experience, I'm not afraid of death anymore. I do have a fear that it might hurt, which I know is irrational, because I know that when I was shown, it's like your body instantly leaves, before that moment or during that moment. So you're not feeling that pain. When you do go home, when you do cross over, but I still have that, like, I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in pain when I pass. But I'm not afraid of death. I know the experience that I had is more real to me than standing here today talking with you and sharing this experience with you. I truly and honestly believe that our soul goes on, that we don't just, that it's just this lifetime, just this body, and once it goes, that's it. There's blackness or darkness. I don't believe that. I believe that our soul lives on, or it's not even live. We're just always, I don't even know how to explain it. Again, it's hard to articulate.
Now.
Right? It's like we just always exist. We're always here. We always exist.
Consciousness exists beyond the physical body.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting too. I know that people have had experiences like when they've passed and they've gone and there was nothing but blackness, or, they were in the dirt with worms, or they had a negative experience. But again, in my experience, what I was shown is when you're taking your beliefs over from this lifetime into transitioning over to going home. And so you're taking those beliefs with you. So if you believe that you're not worthy, or if you're scared that you're going to be judged, you may go into blackness. But as soon as you accept the light and that love, you're instantly home. Right? So your experience, not everybody's near-death experience, if they have a near-death experience, our transition going home is going to be the same. We're individual people with free will. We have thoughts from this body, this lifetime that we're in, that's going to, when we're first transitioning over, we're going to carry with us until we actually go home. We step into that light, and then we have our instant knowing, and we're back, we're all integrated, and we're back to where we come from.
Yes, I agree. I mean, from my interviews, it's so interesting you say that, because it's based on, environment, culture, religion, society. There's so many environmental factors that guide our experience. Heidi, it's been such a delight to talk to you. I've asked all the questions. Is there something you'd like to share with the audience, Passion Harvest audience, that I haven't asked you?
Well, again, thank you, Louisa. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate your platform. I appreciate you, the work that you do. I feel it's so important, sharing people's stories, getting messages out there. So thank you. I guess I really just want to leave with the messages that I received, that you're unconditionally loved. You are unconditionally loved. Everything will be okay. It's always all right, and everything's always the way that it's supposed to be. And I feel like if you hold on to those, even in your darkest moments, your darkest hours, when you feel like it can't get any worse, that there's always some hope, there's always some light. I always like to say, never lose sight of the light. So I guess I just want to leave with that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Heidi Craig, thank you so much for being on Passion Harvest. Well, I feel fabulous after speaking with you, I have to say. I really do. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, Heidi.
Bye.
If you liked this episode, please do subscribe for weekly passionate, inspirational interviews.